Hi, this is Jay Hummel. Welcome to the deep dive in collaboration with Investopedia. We've had two themes, if anybody's been watching our show this year. We've been talking a lot about how do advisors go up market. How do they deal with ultra high net worth investors? And we're led by our questions. And we've gotten a lot of questions on that. And I don't think I have a better guest today to talk about how do you deal with ultra high net worth investors than Rich Berthy. Rich, thank you so much for joining the show.
It's my pleasure, Jay. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so Rich, just tell the viewers a little bit about you and what you're trying to do with Big Sky.
Yeah, well, I'm most recently, the former founder and CEO of Foreside, which is, a tech-enabled professional services firm providing compliance and statutory distribution to the investment industry. So, institutionally based, Foreside is now part of ACA Group. And you ask, about Big Sky Trust Company. One of my goals at Foreside, which I did not achieve, was to embed a trust company within the structure of Foreside to complement its statutory distribution and compliance services. You might ask why. The reason is it allows us to offer customers, of a variety of differentiating products, particularly in the common investment trust space, CIT space, which tends to be a little less expensive to start than a traditional 40 Act, 1940 Investment Company Act mutual fund. And so when I was afforded the opportunity to leave behind Foreside, now ACA Group, it was a joy to be able to start something new and start a new journey. And I'm pretty excited about it.
Well, and I think obviously it's always fun that I have friends on this show, right? And you and I have talked about it a lot. I think I'm not trying to oversimplify it, but when I used to run an RIA in Cincinnati, we used to have a really hard time when we would go after ultra high net worth families because they said you don't have trust capabilities, right? We're worth 40, 50, 60 million dollars. We don't want a family member to be a trustee. We want you to do something to help us with that. And at the time, this was back in 2012, we didn't have that solution. So I think when I look at what you're trying to build at Big Sky is to help advisors deal with the situation that I used to deal with.
I think that is a really great way to put it, Jay. I'm pretty certain I couldn't say it any better. The truth be known, uh, the creation of wealth, and then, of course, the dynastic wealth to G2, G3, as you know, is always a troublesome minefield of challenges for people and families. We also know that families, family offices in particular, which is what you cited, have really become more professionalized, certainly in our careers, uh, what with attracting talent to manage the family wealth. As you know, sometimes G2 and G3 really are not in touch with the creation of wealth. Rather, they are beneficiaries of it. And frankly, many of them don't have interest, a deep interest in managing the various tax, asset management, and other aspects of just running a major family office at the size you just mentioned. These UNHs, these ultra high net worth, uh, you know, people are, far in between. I think in America today, you might have 60,000 families that have 100 million or more, something like that. These are so they're unique and they need special attention. And you're right, trust services are certainly a tool in the toolbox for these families to manage that G2, G3 transition, which, last time I checked, none of us are getting out of here alive. So, this planning has to be it, has to be really good and strong.
So I think the thought, Rich, why you started Big Sky, and again, this isn't a commercial for Big Sky. There's other people doing it, but the thought is, if I'm an advisor right? I meet a $30 million family, and who knows what's going to happen with the exemption, the estate exemption, where we go. But I'm an advisor. I meet a $30 million family. Don't you think that as the advisor, they should be able to offer corporate trustee services the way that Big Sky or somebody else offers it?
Absolutely. And again, Big Sky is an independent trust company. We're not attached
Yeah,
to a bank. So I want to
yeah,
emphasize that. But I
yeah.
do think those services are important. With respect to the exemption, we do know this at 12/31 of 2025, that exemption of 26 point something million will fall down dramatically to something much lower. And so, we're all down to, say, 15 months of planning time. And one has got to believe that estate planning attorneys and other professionals are going to be pretty busy over that 15-month period. So, my suggestion is, and I've done it myself, is to really take a hard look at that, that exemption, because that is a rare opportunity to, you know, pass down more to the G1, G2, or give to charity or whatever your cause may be.
Yeah, I mean, if we take a more macro view here, Rich, how do you think about take it out of trust, just out of corporate trustee services? I mean, you've spent your career, and to the viewers, Rich is very humble. I mean, he's done extremely well and has built some amazing businesses. Is there anything else that these viewers who watch our podcast want to talk about dealing with ultra high net worth? How do you think about the things that they're not doing right? What are you expecting in an advisor as an ultra high net worth investor?
Well, it really is a terrific and perceptive question, Jay, because I'm a former advisor myself. I used to run fixed
Yeah.
income bond funds. You know this about me with my older brother, and this is long before probably you were born. But in any event, we did that, and again, today's ultra high net worth individual is faced with a lot of things. And an advisor typically, and I'm speaking from my own personal experience, I think advisors are probably far more professional and experienced than I was at a much younger age today. The training is much better, but they tend to focus on the asset management, rightfully so. But there are other tools in the toolbox that just don't get addressed as a result, typically. And so these are things like tax, estate planning, to your point, trust
Yeah.
services, which have a place, uh, all sorts of different types of trust, crummy, etc. All sorts of dynastic things that one can do, best done by a really good estate attorney. And of course, we can't expect an advisor to be an expert at everything. So outsourcing that is really uh, an important tool. And it's also important, I think, for the advisor to talk to someone like, say, Jay Hummel and say, listen, I recognize my shortcoming here. However, I do know that you need this advice and you better go get it. And maybe I can give you 3 or 4 referrals or a referral, and we can get you lined up with the right professional to make you bridge.
Well, and I think take us take me out of it. I do think what I love about what you're doing is advisors don't have to be experts on everything, but they have to solve a problem for clients. And
Indeed.
that's what I love about what you're doing with Big Sky is they don't have to be experts in trust. You and I have talked trust a lot. you your team has forgotten more than I'm ever going to know, and I don't need to know it because I know that when I plug a firm in, when they come to Big Sky, that your team knows what they're doing, right? And so I think there's this misnomer, and I say this on the show all the time. I hate the well, we're going to be the quarterback for you. I just
Right.
haven't come up with a better analogy, so I can't
Well,
I
quarterback,
can't make
traffic
fun of it.
cop, whatever the
Yeah,
Midwestern term one
air
wants to
traffic
use.
air traffic
Air traffic
controller.
controller, right?
You
We were
know,
talking earlier about helicopters, right? So I
yeah.
think it's, Jay, it's really, you bring an important viewpoint because, you're an owner of RIAs or RIA,
Yep.
and you have a direct experience. In our case, we're not an RIA so of course, if someone comes to us, we're going to refer that out. And there are other things that we refer out to. The world is complex. The tax code is millions of pages long. There's, uh,
Oh, trust me,
yeah,
trust me. I can't even imagine what your tax return looks like. I've been dealing with it the last 2 days. Our tax return's 187 pages that I'm dealing with before September 15th. So
it's
it's
mind boggling. And
it's mind-boggling.
you sent me that email or text earlier this morning, and I thought
Yeah.
that's funny. I was just on the phone even much earlier this morning solving a tax issue. And the 15th is looming. Moreover, October 15th, for those of us on extension, is looming even broader. So you're right. And so, back to the RIAs, they serve a really important professional role. It is really important to have that quarterback or traffic cop running that money. And by the way, that's a full time job. It's just like when I started Foreside, the idea came to me because as a former money manager, the last thing I wanted was a compliance professional bothering me when my head was in a Bloomberg trading bonds. By the way, deep respect for the compliance professional. We need that. It's very important. But I just didn't want to deal with it because I had a very busy day as it was. So outsourcing these kinds of tasks is good for your client, good for your business, and overall a smart thing to do, for people.
So Rich, I always ask questions on because we have interesting guests like you, who do a lot of different things. Um, to the viewers, I was lucky enough to hang with Rich a couple months ago in his place in Montana, and we're just driving down their driveway, and he looks over and he goes, "Well, there's our orchard where our bee business is going to be." So, it's fun to have people who like to be entrepreneurial. What in the world, Rich, is going on with the bee business?
Well, hey, listen, a little off topic, but we started this year. Last year we started with an orchard, and we took an acre and a quarter or so of land, and we cartoned it off with a 10-foot high fence. It's electrified because of the
The
bears.
bears, the
Yeah, the
bears.
bears, and which we have a lot of here, both brown and black. The grizzlies are really fearsome, and they're smart animals. Anyway, we did that, grew some 80 or 85 trees of various varieties, number of apples, pears, etc. And then this year we introduced 100 hives. We hope to grow that to many, many more times that in the coming years. And so far this year, it's been reasonably successful. About 60% of the hives are producing really good honey, and the other 40 aren't. We speculate, we postulate that that's due to the severe smoke from the California fires that unfortunately you can see in the background. We have a clear day today, but the last few days it's just been terribly smoky, and the extreme periods of heat we had for periods of the summer. So this winter, we're going to winter the bees here. We decided that's news. We just decided that last night, Jay, to bring you up to date because you have a curiosity. We are
I
going
do.
to winter the bees here, possibly in a greenhouse to keep them somewhat warm. And for those who are wondering how do bees survive in the winter, well, they form a ball and they flap their wings, and but they don't particularly create honey, so one has to feed them. And that's a lot of feeding because there are about 85,000 bees per hive. So right now I have about 8.5 million bees.
It's crazy, man. What I love about our show is we always have entrepreneurs on, and the fact that you just decided you're going to start a honey business is just, as I told you, is always boggled my mind.
Well, by
But
the way, in Montana, bees are considered livestock, so technically I could brand them. So, I could brand them with our DW dancing.
what you get a toothpick out
I
and
get
just
a toothpick
brand
out
them,
and brand the little
you know,
money makers.
brand them a little with the
By the
little.
way, one of those little rascals always seems to find me and sting me, no matter how many times I go down there. It's just consistent. However, my wife never gets stung, so it's really kind of comical.
It's the way it goes. It's
It's
the
the
way
way
it
it
goes.
goes.
Well, I always end every show, Rich, with the question because I'm always really so proud of the guests we have. Is when you look at the wealth industry, or you look at compliance, where you made you had a lot of success. Is what's the one thing you think the industry isn't paying enough attention to or talking about that we should bring to our viewers?
Well, that's, I'd have to give that a lot of thought, but just off the cuff, I would say that as much as we try as an industry, from BlackRock and all these big firms all the way down, as much as we try to make it as seamless as possible with respect to the client experience, I still think there's a big gap there. I mean, we talked about trust today, but there are other things. Some software is better than others. That portal interaction, some is better than others, but not consistently. There are a lot of things that are not quite, and now we're at T+1 in terms of settlements, so things are
Yeah.
tighter. Um, I would say that. It's a bunch of small businesses that act like large businesses. So I got called by a fellow from UBS yesterday, a friend, and here he is. He's been at it 25 years, and he's got a team of 5, and he does maybe he manages a $500 million or 600 million, doing great, but you can see where they're stretched thin, and that's why outsourcing things like compliance and trust and other things makes a lot of sense in my view, but I still don't think it's quite seamless to the outsider coming in.
No, I agree with that wholeheartedly. Rich, how do people, if they want to do business with Big Sky, and want to connect with you, how do they connect with you?
Well, I prefer phone, but
Yeah.
and our phone number is on our website, which is of course, Big Sky Trust Co.com. And I think that's a great way to connect, and we'd be delighted to take calls and help people, and in worst case, make a friend. So.
No, that's awesome. Well, Rich, I appreciate our friendship, and I can't thank you enough. I know you're extremely busy. I really appreciate you coming on the show today.
Oh, thank you, Jay. You take good care, and really appreciate it, and hope to see you around here. And buzz me when you're ready, and
I'm going to come see the bees.
you're gonna come
Yeah,
see the bees, and I'll
I'm
make
going
you
to
wear
come
a
see.
bee suit. Okay?
Yeah, that's right. All right.
Great
Well,
to see
thanks
you.
for watching today. Thanks for the partnership with Investopedia. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Deep Dive.